Doing very good. Michigan's undefeated, and they are rolling to Nebraska for a big night game, and it'll be interesting. It'll be a really interesting game for them. I think another challenge, a team that before the season started, I think we all would have penciled in an easy win, and Scott Frost has at least recently kind of gotten things, gotten that ship kind of steadied a little bit. So this will be definitely different than what I would say most Michigan fans thought it would be coming into the season, and it'll be a pretty interesting challenge on Saturday.
Yeah. This is a Michigan team that's playing some really good football right now. They're playing disciplined football, and they don't really do a lot of penalties. They don't really beat themselves. And up to this point, the only questions that they've had to answer is, how diverse they are in terms of different ways to win games. Can they win games? We knew they could win games on the run. Could they win games with the pass? Can they win games if certain guys get hurt on defense? Those are the type of questions when you have Big Ten championship aspirations that you need to see a team get through week by week. And this past Saturday was one of those proving points, and they passed with flying colors. There wasn't a lot of it's never negativity, but big critiques from that game. So it's a good first step against a quality opponent.
Yeah, so I had a number of questions coming into the game, the same questions we discussed last week, and I think they answered those next steps. Big win on the road, place they hadn't won. There are obvious questions about how good Wisconsin is. Probably not the type of Wisconsin team that we've seen in the past, but still a pretty quality opponent, definitely a quality defense. So they win the big game in a environment in which has been difficult for them recently. They didn't necessarily run the ball, but if you look at what Wisconsin's doing to running offenses, what they're doing to Penn State and Notre Dame in particular, Michigan actually was fairly effective, at least effective enough to keep the defense honest running the football. They didn't gash Wisconsin, but I don't know that anyone's going to gash them for big plays in the running game. But they were running effectively enough to at least set up the pass. And then because they couldn't gash Wisconsin in the running game, they turned to the pass, and they were extremely effective for a fairly limited number of passes. They threw it a little bit more, 260 in the air, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I think you'll take that just about every game.
Yeah, for sure. And even for, Wisconsin to shut down Notre Dame the way that they did. I mean, Notre Dame with Kyron Williams, he's a really good running back. And if I had to guess, he's probably a first-round draft pick type running back. So, it's not as if the guys that, in the run games that Wisconsin is stopping and shutting down are just, any old Joe. Like, these are quality opponents. So, Michigan they stayed committed to who they are. And I think, although it wasn't the usual, 150, 200, 300 yards, I think it's a good sign that, just because we weren't extremely successful running the ball, they stuck with it. They really stuck to their guns of who they are. And then, too, when they needed to throw the ball, they did a really good job. They did a fantastic job. And that was one of the, probably the biggest question we had after, the first couple games was, hey, it sounds like we're pretty comfortable with who this run game is and the O-line, but what is it going to look like when you get stymied or when you're not as effective as you usually are? What's plan B, and what does plan B look like? And I think they did a really good job with not only Cade McNamara, but also bringing in JJ McCarthy. He threw a really good, deep ball up the right sideline. And, that's what you're going to need when it comes to, winning these big games. Winning on the road is, as much as you'd like to think that you'll be able to run the ball at will. Once when you start playing quality teams, that's just not going to be the case. And although Michigan was effective, that the pass game is still going to need to come through, and they did a really good job of it on Saturday. So from what I've seen from Nebraska, it's probably going to have to be more of the same as far as game plan wise. This Saturday is you want to still stick to your guns, but you're going to need a couple of those deep shots, deep attempts to be able to loosen up the Nebraska defense.
No, at least to find ways to move the chains. Like when you're getting 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Maybe you have a holding call. Right now, you're second and what you're 1st and 20. Now you need 20 yards. You need to find a way, to chip away at that, and that's where it's not about having an explosive passing game, but just an effective passing game, having the ability to hit an out route, hit a curling route, right? Be able to find some quick bubble screens, some quick progressions your quarterback can make, and quick and easy throws your quarterback can make, just to kind of keep the defense honest and be able to move the chains in different ways. And then, like they did with the flea flicker versus Wisconsin, if you catch the safeties cheating up a little bit, trying to play the run, you can try to take a few shots down the field and being able to, hit some of those shots. You won't hit all of them. That's not realistic, but if you can hit a couple, that's the main thing, right? And that changes the entire dynamic of your offense. And so those were the type of things they showed on Saturday, that they can be creative, they can find different ways and different looks to give a defense. And another thing that I was impressed with, guys, is earlier on in the game, they had some miscommunications, in the passing game. There's a couple of times where the receivers didn't sit in the zone like Cade expected them to. There's a few throws that Cade underthrew. Some drop passes. I think the first pass Cade threw to Cornelius Johnson, it was a little bit behind him, but it was catchable, but he dropped it, right? And it was to first game on the road, not really having a lot of repetitions in the passing game, which we've harped on that point week by week, and it not getting up to the most bright start, but to stick with it and eventually find ways to be effective with it was very impressive to me, and I think will pay dividends going forward. It was kind of like that first exhale. And I told Desmond this in our post game show, that I felt like that flea flicker. You kind of felt like the Cade in the office kind of took a deep breath, like we can hit an explosive play, right? Because not only do they hear all the external noise about the lack of a passing game, internally, it's only natural to have those kind of questions too, because you can't cheat gameplay, right? You can practice it all you want to, but unless you've done it in the game, that's a whole different animal. And they were able to do it. So I'll be interested to see how much they improve this Saturday, because I think they will try to expand more and more throughout the season.